Let's review a new M. Night Shyamalan movie called Old by probably one of the oldest reviewers in the horror community. Old stars Gael Garcia Bernal, Vicky Krieps, Alex Wolff, Rufus Sewell, and is directed by M. Night Shyamalan. What's up, guys? It's an exciting year because we have a brand new M. Night Shyamalan movie. I think the guy has been on a stride with movies like Split, The Visit. He did have a strong lull there for quite a few years, but it's nice to have him back because he is a very gifted director. I'm trying to think of any other director who was at his caliber directing-wise, but had like such a strong lull and then picked it right back up. Because you could say Carpenter had some weaker movies at the end of his career, but M. Night Shyamalan, he had like a valley there, but then he jumped right back up. I think Old is pretty damn decent, actually. I have seen some people scratching their heads over the movie. Is it his best movie? I don't think so. It's not as crowd-pleasing as Signs and The Sixth Sense, but I don't think all movies have to be crowd pleasers. You know, sometimes I like a dark, dismal ending to a movie. Not saying the ending is that, but I'm just saying that's just the vibe you get throughout this whole movie. It feels very dark. It plays with your head. It touches on subjects that we all know we're eventually gonna die.
Have you seen my children?
Mom, I'm right here.
He was 6 years old this morning.
Oh no.
Mom, I'm scared. There's something wrong with this beach.
We were chosen for a reason.
So what happens when we speed that process up and you make one day 50 years? That's what this movie does. Irresistible premise, by the way. So anyway, quick plot synopsis. There is this resort, and our main characters are this family. You got Gael Garcia Bernal, who plays Guy, and then you got Vicky Krieps, who plays Prisa. Prisa. Did I say it right? Prisa? They're on vacation. They go to this resort, and then this guy approaches them about going to this beach that's not too far from the resort. And so they get there. Everything seems nice and hunky-dory. They're just relaxing. But then all of a sudden they start noticing some weird characters, first of all. This one guy who's like constantly having these nosebleeds. You got this Dr. Charles, who is played by, I think, the highly underrated Rufus Sewell. I've seen him in so many things, and I don't think the guy gets enough credit. He was in Dark City, a lot of other movies, but he's great in this. He's like a key character in this. He's a really eccentric character, but really he's just succumbing to the beach and what happens to you when you're on the beach. But I think the thing that really jumps out at you, because we already know the premise, these people are going to age very rapidly. You can play around with like every character or generation in this movie because you have children that are 6 years old, and in Act 2 they're already like 11 or 12. And the biggest thing that's so interesting about this movie to me is just the reactions, the realizations of the characters as they eventually figure out, oh my God, we are all aging at a rapid rate, and some realize it faster than others. And it's interesting when the kids, they're probably a foot taller, but they don't even realize it, and they're unrecognizable, and their parents are like, what the hell is going on? Also, M. Night's direction in this, I think, is top-notch. You can tell he's taking a little bit of influence from directors like Hitchcock and maybe like television shows like the Twilight Zone. I guess the big thing is he doesn't want the viewer to feel comfortable throughout this whole movie. He always wants you to feel uncomfortable, and the way he does that is just through his use of the camera and his camera movements. It's just very chaotic. A lot of like long panning movements, zoom-ins, just all this chaotic stuff that makes you feel uneasy. I am not gonna lie. When I walked out of this movie, I didn't know how I felt about it. It was a strange feeling. Like, what the hell just happened? And I think one reason is because when I saw the trailer for this movie, when you see that premise, I think we all kind of form in our head what that movie's going to be. And I think for most of us, when we came out of Old, it wasn't what we thought it was going to be. We thought it was going to be much more accessible. And I don't think it's that. I still think it's very good. M. Night definitely plays with your expectations in this movie and lets the viewer know, hey, I got the wheel, and you might not like where we're going with this movie, and your head's probably going to hurt by the end of it, but that's intentional. And so I have to give M. Night credit for that. There are definitely some eccentric characters in this, but that's just because of the situation that they're in. When you're aging that fast, How are you going to act? You're probably going to be a little bit strange. If you started out in your, in your mid 40s or 50s, you're going to start seeing your twilight years by dinner time. And that's some interesting stuff, just to play around with your mind constantly playing tricks on you. Because these people have to keep up with what's going on. They realize that they're getting older at a rapid rate, but also their bodies are naturally reacting to the process. Now, there are some nice emotional moments in here too, especially with our main characters. And one thing that I didn't mention is they're going through a divorce in the beginning of the movie. And so they explore what kind of effect this process would have on a couple that's in the process of getting a divorce. What happens when they're actually in their twilight years and they were supposed to get a divorce? They start rethinking life in general, And I'm not going to go into any spoilers and everything, but just a lot of thought-provoking moments in this movie like that. And it really just makes you think about your own life. Because I'm not going to lie, at the age I'm at right now, you definitely start thinking about, I hate to say it, but the end, It's probably not as far away as you thought it was when you were younger. You just don't think about it as much when you're younger. This movie probably makes even young people start thinking about that stuff, and I think that's great. And I will say, after letting this movie kind of sit for a while, I think in a few years from now, people are really going to start going back and looking at this movie because it is very unique, actually. And I think a lot of the earlier reviews that came out, because everybody wants to get that review out as quick as possible, right, might be knee-jerk reactions. And I would wager that maybe some of them might change their mind a little bit. And I'm glad I did wait to review it and let it process for a little bit because it's very thought-provoking, actually. So it begs a conversation. So I'm giving it a purchase worthy, for sure. And when I walked out of the theater, I would have given it a humdrum, straight up humdrum. Now, as time has went on, I'm definitely giving it a purchase worthy, like a low purchase worthy. So anyway, let me know your thoughts of Old down in the comments. I know I'm going to get tons of mixed reviews, even on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's like right down the middle, which when I see movies that are right down the middle on Rotten Tomatoes, it grabs my interest even more. For some reason, I'm curious to see what it is that half the audience is loving and the other half is hating. I definitely see it with this movie. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do Free for All Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on all my socials. Support me on Patreon. Buy me a coffee. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. And Drumdum out.